A lot of the times you see a new video game trailer or clips going around for a newly announced game, and you really have no way of telling if it's actually really good or not, if it's actually as good as it looks. Sometimes a game just looks really awesome or really interesting or really weird or special, and you just can't imagine it actually being a real proper video game. Sometimes that can be a compliment to a game. It can also be healthy skepticism. I think it's definitely a bit of both. So today we're going to talk about 10 upcoming games that seem too good to be true. Keep in mind, full disclaimer, this is not an indictment on these games. We're not necessarily saying too good to be true like it's on the level of a game like The Day Before or something like that. All these games look pretty sweet, and we just hope that they're as cool as the trailers suggest. Anyway, we got 10 games, so let's get started off with number 10. Samson. This is one that was announced like a month ago. I'm personally really excited about it. It looks right up my alley, and it looks nuts. It's combining open world driving with intense close quarters brawling, and it kind of looks like a mix of GTA and Mad Max, with some of the people from Mad Max working on this, but it's set in this like gritty 1970s inspired crime world, and you're playing as this older getaway driver. There seems to be like a really big focus on driving and smashing and escaping police pursuits. So it seems like the developers are really taking inspiration from classic car chase movies and crime movies like Bullet, The French Connection, among other things, because while the protagonist looks about as 70s as you can get, the game is actually meant to be set in the 90s. Either way though, the driving looks cool as hell, and this one is from a newly formed smaller studio called Liquid Swords, and this is technically their first game, which normally would have us concerned, but looking these guys up, the studio again was started by one of the co-founders of Avalanche, who have made many things, and I think it's safe to say that they definitely know how to make some sort of open world game. Mechanically, this actually has a little more going on than you think. You know, it does look simple. There's this action point system apparently, which seems to limit the amount of missions you can go on every day, and what you choose to do and not do can lead to different outcomes. How exactly that's going to work, I have no clue. But it's really interesting as an idea, but it's also super, super ambitious, and we hope they can actually pull that off. Now, the point of the game seems to be about earning money to pay back a debt, and you've got specific quotas that need to be filled daily, which sounds like it could lead to a lot of repetitive driving missions, but I guess we'll just see how it plays out. Either way, don't expect like this huge freedom-filled GTA open thing with this game. It seems like they're limiting the scope to driving and brawling, but there's also apparently some roguelike elements, as well as third-person shooting, if the game's Steam page can be believed, like looking at the tags and stuff like that. The roguelite tag definitely has us a little curious of like what they're actually doing here, but otherwise, this just looks impressive and intriguing. Now at number 9, No Law. From top-down shooter The Ascent to a full-on cyberpunk open world, seems like a hell of a jump for the game studio Neon Giant, but we're really hoping they can pull this off because the reveal trailer is awesome. They're describing this thing as an immersive sim, yes, where you like approach missions in various different ways. You're using stealth to go in guns blazing. You play as a specific character here, but it does sound like there will be like a branching story that can go in different directions depending on your choices, which encourages multiple playthroughs. There is going to be some kind of open world here, and it does look really good, but what you can actually do between missions is still actually unclear. Even if this ends up being mostly just a series of missions with like a glorified hub area rather than a full-blown open world, I think I'd be okay with that because the action and the stealth mechanics here do look solid. And the trailer revealed a whole lot of variety to your enemies and locations you'll be able to explore. Now at number 8, the Vernyhorn, the Song of the Swallow. This is a game with a goofy ass name, but some big ideas. This open world action RPG's standout feature is just this impressive looking combat with cool animations and the amount of options you're given for dealing with conflict. It looks like a brutal game where you can do whatever it takes to survive, up to like attacking enemies even before they attack you. This is the surprise attack mechanic where before a fight you can plan out your moves and target enemies that have you surrounded to catch them off guard and leave them weakened in the fight ahead. It's an intuitive system that tells us what this game is really all about. brutal combat that looks extremely deadly, man. It looks like there's also more to it, like there will be a massive open world that is also apparently kind of a shorter, richer experience in the developers' words, which sounds contradictory, but I guess we'll see what the final game looks like. There's also a heavy emphasis on survival. You're gonna need food and water to survive, and you need to dress properly to survive different elements. This is another game that seems interested in recreating the past, kind of similar to Kingdom Come. They want to depict medieval Europe as it was, so this isn't like a fantasy game with magic spells. It looks really fantastic, but this is yet another game from a small team with no prior games under their belt, so who knows how this game will actually turn out upon release. They've shown a lot in their trailers, and it seems like they got a pretty realistic vision for what the game will be on their Steam page, so hopefully whenever this does come out, it lives up to the cool trailer. Next at number 7, Project Retrograde. This like absurd looking mishmash of genres could be great, could be terrible, but it is absolutely going there with its cinematic trailer, which does actually show some gameplay. I mean, for a game from yet another first-time studio here, that's at least always a good sign, like they're showing real gameplay. Even if it doesn't necessarily mean anything regarding the ultimate quality of the game, I'll take something. At first, this looks like a pretty standard Resident Evil-like game with slow third-person shooting against all different types of zombies and monsters. The cinematics look impressive. The world they've created here seems interesting, but the gameplay doesn't look too mind-blowing. Then they hit you with this crazy-ass John Wick-style combat, and I'm just left wondering, like, what even is this game? What the hell is this? If the shooting is anything like what they're showing in the trailer, could be a dark horse hit. It looks entertaining as hell. The actual third-person shooting looks pretty stiff in the trailer, but everything else going on looks sick. I don't know exactly what to expect here, given, again, this is yet another seemingly impressive looking game that came from out of nowhere, but we're at least hoping that it'll be fun when it comes out, whenever that's supposed to be. Next at number 6, coming at you with something that's a little bit closer, a little bit more realistically releasing, Crimson Desert. It's dropping in March, just a few short months away, and it still seems too good to be true, man. It's this massive open world, crazy complex combat systems, flying dragons, superpowers, all kinds of weird mechanics. It looks like a game that has a little bit of everything, which normally would set off my bullshit detector, but this game is apparently the real deal. People have gotten their hands on it, myself included. It's been played. People have been impressed. I thought it was pretty interesting. Still a little messy, but really cool. I can confirm it is a real game. Gameplay department seems cool. The only thing we're still concerned about is that the main character looks generic and the story stuff isn't super intriguing, at least on the surface. And this is a game we've talked about a lot already, but it's only because there's a lot to talk about. Every trailer seems like it's throwing something completely new out there, like this robot dragon boss that has swinging mechanics. It looks nuts, and that's just like one tiny aspect of the game among a bunch of others. This looks like a crazy action game on an absurd scale with RPG stuff, and it looks like it's actually just prioritizing fun factor over almost anything else, and that could be good. The trailers, the previews, the impressions, all that tells us this is a game to keep on our radar. While it may not live up to the impossible standards it set for itself, it still has a good chance of being pretty damn cool anyway. Next at number 5, Ballad of Antara. This is a crazy one. Remember this Chinese free-to-play game that got announced just about a year ago during a Sony State of Play? It was absolutely one of those games that just looked too good to be true. It was visually stunning with a diverse cast of crazy characters set across a bunch of different incredibly detailed regions, each with their own stories and gameplay styles. It looked crazy ambitious and was supposed to launch in 2025, but after that initial announcement, the game went dark, and now, in early 2026, it has yet to re-emerge. They didn't even announce a delay, it kind of just disappeared. Well, just recently, there has been some news on the game, but it may not be good news. This is all pure rumor so far, so take this all with a big grain of salt, but apparently, according to a concept artist who worked on the game, it's been quietly canceled. Or maybe it's going to be rebooted, I don't know. It's possible maybe this game really was too good to be true. Maybe it doesn't exist now, but maybe the trailers have been completely faked, or for all we know, maybe the game isn't canceled at all and it'll re-emerge and reappear a little different, I don't know. Who really knows at this point? This stuff happens. Again, this rumor comes from a concept artist, and it could be mistaken about the state of the game's development. We don't know. If the rumor is true though, then it's disappointing because the Souls-like elements with the pre-built characters could have been really interesting. The game did did look fun. Given how many too good to be true type games we've been seeing lately, it's kind of surprising that these sorts of rumors don't pop up more often. I'm holding out hope for Ballad of Antara still, but the longer they go without any official statements or updates from the developers, the more we're just going to assume we're not going to see this one. But who knows? Next at number 4, ExeKiller. Open world, first person, driving, branching paths. It's starting to sound like a broken record here, but like all these first time studios making extremely ambitious looking games seem to all be interested in the same thing. It's not just that the game is open and has driving and shooting mechanics, it also needs choices and multiple endings. The gameplay stuff just seems really ambitious, but it's the visual style that is just so awesome. It's like Western Blade Runner, cool as hell. This is what initially caught our eye when we first started talking about this game in some of our roundup top 10 lists a few years back. Open world driving, bounty hunting, first person shooting combat, a cool sci-fi world. Hopefully it can really live up to this premise. I'm glad we got a new look at it recently with some fresh gameplay so we know it's a real game. I just hope it can really live up to that visual style. The cool Blade Runner style cars, the orange drenched atmosphere. This game really could be something. Next at number 3, Ananta. This is one of those games that wants to be everything all at once. It's almost enough to trick you into forgetting that it's yet another like Chinese free-to-play style game. And sometimes these have a tendency to look more impressive in the trailers than they end up being when you actually play them. But even knowing that, this game still looks very impressive, even if I can't help but be skeptical about the whole thing, because if any one game on this list exemplifies too good to be true, it might be this one. There's cool third-person combat, vehicle driving, shooting mechanics. You can swing around the city like Spider-Man, sneak up on bad guys Arkham style. There's basketball and darts and working out and simulation stuff. Every second of the trailer feels like it's showing us something else you can do or some crazy thing that's happening. It's just like gameplay mechanic information overload. To the game's credit, they've also said that it is not a character-based gacha game like so many other of these games of this type. That legitimately has us surprised. You know, apparently the only thing they're monetizing is the cosmetics, which, you know, we find kind of hard to believe, but hey, if that's it, and if the game ends up being popular enough, they might be able to get away with that. These games sound ambitious, they have flashy trailers, sometimes they are DOA, but other times they really genuinely end up pretty cool, or at least they find an audience, like Where Winds Meet recently. So I'm curious to see what comes of Ananta. Now coming down at number 2, Project Spectrum. This was revealed in August of last year. It's described itself as a tactical shooter with horror elements, sort of like a hypercharged next-gen Fear. And it looks pretty impressive, even if the trailer feels a little deceptive once you learn what the game technically actually is. The announcement trailer seems to show this like cool story-driven FPS with great graphics, but it's actually technically more of an Evolve-like game, like a PvPvE shooter. It's going to be an asymmetric first-person shooter game made by the same guys who did the in-name only Delta Force game. Depending on who you ask, that might actually be more interesting, and there's definitely potential here for an interesting multiplayer game that could bring something unique to the overstuffed free-to-play first-person shooter scene. Like Evolve, players actually control the boss-like monsters you face in the game, which has always been a fun idea, but execution counts with this subgenre, and Evolve still didn't quite pull it off. This game at least seems to be mixing things up a little bit by making it so that the agents also get a chance at controlling monsters too. Under specific conditions, they can take control as well, which really could be interesting. All that, and there is apparently a sanity mechanic mixed in where agents hallucinate after encountering enemies, which could be distracting, but apparently can also be a good thing depending on how you've actually built out your character. There's a lot to unpack here, but the game overall looks pretty interesting. I just hope it ends up being a little better than its inspiration. Evolve was fun, but flawed. A lot of times these asynchronous multiplayer games always sound great on paper, but most of the time they just don't work out quite as well. So hopefully Project Spectrum will be one of the good ones, because at least on the surface it looks cool as hell. And now finally, down at number 1, Phantom Blade Zero. This long-anticipated action game finally has a release date. It's coming in September of 2026. And the more it gets shown off and previewed, the more this game, which for years looked like it was too good to be true, is finally happening, and it looks like it's going to deliver on all its promises. It's a game that at first to some might look like a Souls-like, but it's not. It's more of a traditional action game with like a bunch of moves, crazy animations for all those moves, and 30 different types of weapons and special special weapons to choose from. There is an emphasis on parrying, which can also trigger this powerful ghost step ability. If you parry at the right time, it can be very satisfying, because I got my hands on a work in progress version of this game, and yeah, it's pretty cool. But really, it's how visually impressive it really is. It's got its own unique style, a striking main character, and again, really crazy, realistic looking animations. Plus, varied environments and a ton of enemies and bosses. So at this point, our expectations for this one are extremely high, and we hope it lives up to the hype. But hey, those are 10 games that look cool. Some of them could be too good to be true. Some of them could be not. We have no idea. We have no way of knowing until we get our hands on the physical games themselves and judge them for ourselves. But we wanted to talk about these today. So if you like talking games with us every single day, clicking the like button's all you gotta do. It really helps us out. And if you're new, consider subscribing, maybe hitting that notification bell, because we put out videos every single day. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.